So let's think of the physical. So the physical is your senses. That's a good way to connect with the physical. So look at your eyes, look around where you're at, look at the screen, look at your body. Just sort of come into the here and now. Notice the sounds, the ambient noise that you might not, or the quiet. Notice the taste in your mouth. Notice your sense of sitting, if you're sitting. Feel your tush in your chair. Good. Let's see, I feel like I'm missing some sense. Notice the temperature, sense of touch. Maybe touch your hands together a little bit and see what happens with all that. So now that we're in our body, I'd like you to, even though we're going to go up in our imagination and sort of leave the physical, because this is distance healing, it's not a physical laying on of hands, for example, but it really helps to be embodied in your body. It's not about flying off to outer space and healing. It's sort of like being in two worlds at the same time, simultaneously here in your body while we're doing the visualization. Okay, so now let's go up an octave. Let's go to the life force. And life force is our sense of being alive. So notice that if you were dead, you would feel very different right now. Wouldn't feel at all. There's a sense of levity that comes with our life force. And they say, the ubiquitous they says that when you die, you actually lose a teeny tiny bit of weight, because there actually is a sense of there is something that lifts us when we're alive. And it's perceptible. Anybody who've been to a funeral or seen a dead animal know that a dead animal looks very different than a living or sleeping animal. And it's not that subtle, you can tell. So it's that sense of your life force that I'd like you to connect with right now. Breathing is a good way to do it. Sometimes movement is a good way to do it. Just feel that you're alive. Because if we're healing, we're going to heal mostly through resonance. So that means the spiritual forces have to come from the world beyond thinking, through our emotions, into our life force, down into our physical. And if we are healers, it helps if we're doing that too. We're not just expecting our patients to do that. So then by resonance, if you're doing something, it makes it easier for everybody else around you to do it. So I think that's one of the mechanisms that might be why I think I've experienced this being in your body while you're doing distance healing project to be so powerful. Okay, good. A couple of you just got that. I get little light bulbs when people are listening. So that's good. And I can tell that some of people listening later are actually getting that experience. Good. All right, so now let's go up to the octave of emotions and images. And notice the emotional weather in your room. Notice if it's peaceful, if it's lively, if there's any sadness or anger or fear. Just do like a baseline check. It doesn't matter what it is, because we're going to be able to notice if it changes. Okay. And one of the axioms of my work is that it's not about being reverent or peaceful, it's about being authentic. Because often during a healing, very rowdy things happen, like old emotions get stimulated, old sadnesses, old terrors, old angers, and that's part of the healing process. And if we're busy trying to be very reverent and peaceful so that we can facilitate healing, we can actually suppress the healing. So let's not do that. Let's just let ourselves be authentic with what is. Okay, so now we go up to the image. So the lower part of this octave of emotions and images, the lower part is emotions. And emotions are in time. Emotions take time. They are like serotonin and dopamine. You know, your body has to make a chemical and then you feel an emotion. All right? And it's stimulated by thoughts and images, but the emotion itself is like that mediator. It's like a physiological event. images, I think, are out of time. And my sense of that is that people can have near-death experiences and report that they saw their whole life pass before them in a blink of an eye, and they say they experienced every moment of their life, the images of it. And that's such a common cross-cultural experience that it made me think about this gradation from the spiritual into images, into emotions, into life force, into the body. All right. And then into the earth. And there's probably levels below that we're not really conscious of. But for my octave resonance healing approach, I want to work with what we're all conscious of. Nothing too esoteric. All right. Just our human experience. All right. So notice your images. And if you want to, you can start a spinning. If you know the Bengston Method, you know how to do rapid image cycling, you can start your cycling practice. If you don't know that, just imagine that you are spinning a ball of healing light, either above your head or behind your head, if you're new to it. If you're old to cycling, you can do whatever you like to do with that. But just notice that you can be aware of your body while you are spinning that in your imagination. This is critical and key, because most people can just think of something and leave their body behind, but it takes a certain discipline to be aware of your body while you are doing something through your imagination. So let's have a very simple imagination of healing spinning. Okay, good. And I don't know if you just felt it, but I just felt a sense of coherence develop in the group as I instructed you all to turn on your cycling. And that's an indication to me that we're actually connected. So that's pretty cool. All right, now let's go up to the next octave, which is the spiritual. And the lower part of the spiritual is our thinking, our witnessing of our images. Like we can realize, oh, I'm imagining a spinning circle of healing. That's a spiritual part of you that can witness that. It's separate from it. That same part of you can witness yourself being happy or sad, or angry or not angry, or whatever you're feeling. And that part of you can witness your body. You can observe your senses. And then there's the place above our conscious thinking. People call it our Supra Conscious. And the way I like to think of that is the place the thoughts come from. Sometimes the thoughts bubble up from below, especially when we're sleeping, the dreams and things like that. They're expressions of stress coming out of the body, and we get images and thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts come from higher places, quote unquote higher places. And I like to think that, and it's my experience, that I regularly, especially when I'm working with clients, and often in my personal life too, actually more often maybe than I'm even aware of, we get inspiring thoughts that help us pay attention to what we need to pay attention to. So the way to activate this for this day's distance healing is to ask a question that you're not necessarily going to get an answer to right away. But asking a question sort of opens up our ability to be open to those thoughts that usually pop in when we're not asking consciously. It sort of comes in a little later, when we're washing our hands or just driving out. We get this like light bulb idea, like, oh, I can do it that way. All right. Or during this session, maybe you'll get an idea, like you'll ask this question that I'm going to tell you in a minute, and then when we're actually doing it, you'll get an idea. And it will I experience these ideas as very gentle new thoughts. And it feels like I am making them up, but when I trace it intuitively, I realize, oh, that was actually from either a higher part of me or something that I label as different than me. However, I use different lenses to talk about the non-physical. Okay. I'm like a chameleon that way. All right, good. So this question is, what can I be aware of that if I was aware of it would help this healing right now? And then you let the question go. Sort of like you opened the door and now you have that invitation. All right, good. All right, so we went through all the octaves, and I'd like to just be aware that you can have your open question of, okay, I'm going to try to be open to a thought that will help me show up at this healing with, like I just got the thought of like, make sure my heart's really open. So I just opened my heart a little more. Okay, you might have got a different thought, and you can type it in if you want. Let's see, I can see the comments now. All right, and now notice your spinning ball of healing. And now notice the emotions in your room. Now notice that you're alive. And now notice your connection to the ground. And now imagine something connecting you from way up above the spiritual down into the ground. Just like imagine a grounding cord going right through you down into the center of the earth. And now feel like the earth comes up and reaches into you and supports you too. So there's this two-way stream. Okay, good. All right, that helps us show up. And I'd like you to try to maintain contact with this vertical axis as much as you can, which means an easy way to do that is just to be aware of your body while we're doing this guided visualization. Okay. Alrighty, so if you're watching this on YouTube, this is where we're going to stop the video. If you want to join the actual healing session, you can join us over at Spirit Gate Cancer Support on Facebook. I just want to create I mean, it's still social media, but it's a little bit of effort. You had to sign up for the group. You didn't just bump into it with a search engine. And that creates a little more specialness of the container.